Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled, "A Salute Turns into a Dirty Vindication." This happened a long time ago, and while I have a bunch of malicious compliance stories, this was my first and to this day still makes me smile, maybe a little evilly. It was a beautiful day, I loved my job, I was done for the day, I got mail, it was 85 degrees out, I was stationed on a tropical island, life was perfect in my 21-year-old mind. Coming out of the post office is where my day was jacked by, let's call him, Lieutenant Man. In the military, it's customary to greet oncoming officers with a crisp salute followed by a good afternoon sir or ma'am, oncoming being the important part. Lieutenant Man comes rolling up on my left side like a ninja, grabs my arm and proceeds to point to his insignia and demands a salute. I tried to explain that sneaking up on unsuspecting enlisted people isn't how salutes were meant, of course in a roundabout way. After a berating and a lesson in customs and courtesies, I saluted him and tried to regain my beautiful day. Didn't happen. Next day I filled everyone in on Lieutenant Man, we all laughed it off, became a joke, people running up to me demanding a salute, etc. Then 2 weeks later I was called into the office where I was introduced to a new lieutenant that would be shadowing me. I was to give him a hands-on lesson in what I did. It was Lieutenant Man, not a glimmer of recognition in his eyes as I shook his hand. A little info on what I did in the Air Force. My job was working on support equipment for the aircraft. I was assigned to a 3-man refurbishment crew. The salt air was terrible for the equipment, so we would tear it down and make it new. By the end of the day you were dirty in places you shouldn't be. Lieutenant Man's uniform was pressed to perfection, boots were high gloss, hands had never touched a wrench in their life. My goal was to make sure that changed and to bring back the beautiful day he stole from me. I picked the nastiest piece of equipment and had him doing everything I did. He was covered in dirt, oil, grease, rust and years of paint. By the end of the day his uniform had ripped, his shoe had a gouge in it and his knuckles and fingers were bleeding. While this was a normal day for me, it wasn't for him. We walked into the office and the chief looked at me like WTF. But was like, I hope you learned a lot and sir this and sir that. After he left I got an earful about respect, how I should have got him some coveralls, how I was supposed to show him and not make him a worker, etc. After he was done I told him he was Lieutenant Man from 2 weeks ago and he was like, what? Really? Then laughed and saluted me. It was one of the best day I had there. The next story is titled, I'm not sure it qualifies, because it wasn't particularly malicious. In the mid-90s I got my first tech support job, working for a company called CPS Payment Systems in Tennessee. The company irked me because their name was Company Payment Systems Payment Systems. That's close to its real name. I was doing subcontracted tech support for a company I'll call WebCon, but that's not its name. This company sold lifetime internet over dial-up through our infrastructure from our parent contract's backbone. They sold these packages for $200 or so at state fairs. They got away with this thanks to a very strict user agreement. Any concurrent logins or access for more than 8 hours a day invalidated the agreement. They were fond of cancelling the accounts of people who got ghost dropped and dialed back in. The day before this happened, we had a meeting, myself and my buddy Tom, that's not his name, with the QA team, who had received a complaint from the WebCon people about us incorrectly categorizing our tickets. Me and Tom were the only 2 agents working for WebCon 5 days out of the week. Neither of us really knew what the problem was, as they didn't have any specific examples, but we promised to do as they said, and always choose the most appropriate category to close the ticket under. This was their very specific instruction, in writing on the review forms they had us sign. The next day, I got a call from a nice old man who couldn't get his internet connection working. It turned out he has forgotten to actually dial in, and had just opened his browser. After he realized the mistake, he was very apologetic, and ended the call with, I was just stupid, sorry to bother you. Those exact words. When I was closing out the ticket, I looked through the category list harder than I had before, and noticed that while the first 25 or so were very professional, there were dozens more under it that were snarky, sarcastic or just plain mean. You just had to keep scrolling. I giggled a bit as I looked through them. Near the bottom was one that simply said, customer was stupid. I smiled a bit, told Tom about it and we laughed for a bit, then I closed it out. Customer was stupid. 2 days later, I called into our. They accused me of being abusive towards the customers, and unprofessional. I asked what it was about. They showed me the printout of the ticket, explained how saying a customer was stupid was not acceptable, and they were going to have to let me go. This was not my first visit to HR, sadly. They believed I had hacked the system, planted the offensive category description, and then used it. I tried to explain about the QA meeting, the need for accuracy, the customer's verbal statement, and the large number of other very questionable closing categories that were in the database, which I could only choose from, and could not add, delete or edit. They didn't want to hear anything about it, and I was fired. I signed the paperwork, and my supervisor stood up with me to walk me out of the building. A few feet from the HR office, the director of the building was talking to someone. I had never met him personally, but I recognized him. Me and my supervisor were talking, pretty emphatically, about what happened being wrong and possible appeals, etc. The director asked what was going on, my manager explained the situation, and the director told us to wait there, stepped into the HR office for 2 minutes, and came back out. He asked me if anyone who was still employed there could show what I had explained from the ticketing system, and I said sure enough, Tom can do that. 10 minutes later he came back, HR manager in tow, and ordered her to reinstate me on the spot. The next story is titled, She Said Save Everything, So I Did. Until December of last year, my stepsister, 30, lived with my father, 78, along with her boyfriend, 40, and their 4 kids. My father supported them all financially, leaving him unable to retire. In April, I had free time, so I went to Florida to help my father prepare to sell his house. I arrived to find it was completely trashed, like, if he hadn't been so rural, health department probably would have condemned it trashed. The 3 rooms occupied by my step and her kids were the worst. Literally shin deep in beer cans, cigarette butts, soiled diapers, pet waste. It was awful. It took over 400 labor hours to get the house clean and repaired, and I used to be a professional cleaner, so I'm fast. When I got to her spaces, she informed my father that idiot better not throw any of my stuff away, or I'll kick her ass. So, I didn't. I went into the rooms and shoveled, literally, everything, dirty diapers and all, into trash bags, and put them into the garage for her to pick up at her convenience. The next story is titled, Got What They Asked For Twice. I used to wait tables at an upscale restaurant that was known to be the place to have your holiday or office parties. Great money if you got the right group. The menus were pre-set, the wine and liquor was pre-set, and it was all auto-graded at 18%. All of it was in the contract the host signed pre-event. Usually the host would make themselves known fairly early on so you would know who to talk to if there was an issue and who to give the check to at the end of the night. One night, I am splitting a party of 30 to 40 with another server. This event had top-tier food and mid-level wine and booze. Very nice. A small group of 5 to 6 people arrive a bit ahead of schedule. 2 guys and 3 to 4 women. Not a problem, it's actually nicer if they slowly roll in so we can get drinks started. I walk over, introduce myself and the other waiter and ask for drinks. Now this was back in the early 2000s and chads weren't a thing yet, but the 2 guys were the chaddiest chads. If they could have popped their collars in their suits, I'm sure these guys would have found a way. Super Chad 1, me and my bro are going to start with a round of Johnny Walker Blue, and these ladies are going to have expensive red wine. Super Chad 2, turning to the girls, once you have Johnny Blue, you just can't drink anything else. It changes you, bro. Me, if you like, I can put those on a separate tab. The event contract has Johnny Walker Black, but not Blue, and the red wine selection for tonight is less expensive wine. Super Chad 1, this is our party, just get me what I ordered and don't question me again. Super Chad 2, who do you think you are? You're just some waiter, we have MBAs. Just get us our drinks. I walk over to the other waiter and tell him we are in for a hell of a night, but the check should be nice. For those that don't know, Johnny Walker Blue is 3 to 4x the cost of Johnny Black. So one round of drinks for these people is over $100. The whole night goes exactly as we thought. Nothing was good enough, the appetizers were crap, the food was horrible, not enough bread, too many bread plates, drinks were taking too long. Why do some people have food and others don't? It's 40 people man, it takes a minute to get that much food out. To make it worse, chads and co are all over the place, moving seats and making others move so they can talk to who they want. This makes serving hell because we did everything by seat number. Surprisingly, most of the table was normal, not entitled people, and who knew that waiters are people too. They were impressed by the food, and graciously ordered the drinks that were in the contract. One older gentleman at the other end of the table from the Chads apologized for their behavior, saying, "They might have fancy degrees and good jobs, but you can't teach class." Love that guy. Finally, they are winding down, and after drinking almost a full bottle of Johnny Blue along with all the other food and drinks, they have a very hefty check, and the other waiter and I are excited to get paid. We start picking up the dessert plates and asking for last drink requests. The nice older guy at the end of the table says to bring him the check. Not wanting any more interaction with the Chads than necessary, I bring it to him. I tell him I can take care of it whenever and go about clearing the table. A few minutes later he calls me over. Nice guy, maybe there was a mistake in ringing up the drinks. There is almost $600 for Johnny Blue, when the contract I signed only included Johnny Black. And there are some single glasses of wine that are different from what we agreed upon. Me, no mistake sir, that is what was ordered and drank. He is being awesome, and I feel bad. Nice guy, why did you give the drinks to them when we clearly had a contract? Me, I apologize sir, they told me that this was their party, and since I was just a waiter to shut up and do as I was told. So I did. I'm sorry, I took them at their word. I point them out and he calls them over. What follows was the singularly greatest ass chewing I have ever been witness to. He goes on about how he was doing something nice, but apparently that wasn't enough. About how horrible their behavior was that night and how he is ashamed for them. But my favorite line was how you see a person's true colors in how they treat people that work for them, and they had shown theirs. Then he calls me back over. Nice guy, apparently I thought this was my party. Guess I was wrong. This is their party and they will be taking care of the check. Oh, and up the gratuity to 25%. You earned it. He turns around and walks off, leaving the Chads with the check. All in all it was about $3K. I have never seen two grown men look so defeated. The next story is titled, "You're not paid to be on call because you're not on call." I work in a support role for a global insurance investment company. Over the last 6 months I've lost many an evening and weekend to unexpected work problems, with not even a thank you, let alone any financial compensation. As an example, being called at 21:30 and asked if you can log on, when you've met friends for a drink. Where a job needs to provide out-of-hours support, a supplement is meant to be paid for being on call, with additional payment if you're required to actually work. My contract is based on annual salary, where additional work might be required for no extra pay, overtime if it's considered business as usual, BAU, or known in advance. This bit is important. However, the work I've been asked to do on weekends, evenings is not BAU. BAU assumes processes work. If something goes wrong, someone needs to step in to fix it, and it's no longer BAU. Hope that makes sense. A couple of months ago, I had the conversation with my manager about being paid for being on call. I was told the work I was covering actually fell under BAU, and as I was always given advance notice, I wouldn't be paid for being on call. Manager wouldn't budge on this, so I made it clear I would not be taking my laptop home available unless I was given advance notice I might be required to log on, to which my manager agreed. On this glorious day I received a call from my manager asking me to log on as some critical data was missing from a file, causing significant problems with several admin systems. Trying to sound as sincere as I could, I apologized and said as I was not made aware in advance, and I'm not on call, my laptop was left at the office. This was met by an "ah." To which I responded, "Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow." Expecting it to be a crap show in the morning for Muggins here to clean up, but it'll be worth it. Edit 1, wow, was cathartic to write this last night, did not expect this. Thank you for the upvotes and the silver and gold. I'm on my way to work now and will look to update once the fan has been cleaned of crap. Edit 2, so last night after the call to me, my manager rang around and finally got hold of a manager from team I provide support to. Over several hours, between them they figured out that somehow a group in the system had not been run for the day, controls are in place so this shouldn't be possible. To fix it they had to run the missed group, validate the movements, and then rerun processes to send the data to the admin systems. After looking into it this morning, this is for Team P to look into how they've managed to done goof on such a scale, a near miss, recorded with governance, who they'll need to explain it to. This caused several issues with admin systems and a lot of verifying everything is as it should be this morning. Following this, a group email has been sent around to remind people that laptops should be taken home, as in the event of the building being unavailable, inaccessible. Recovery plans are for people to use their laptops to work from home, alternate site. It seems the manager had trouble contacting someone with a laptop able to log on. I'm positive they'll have no issues finding someone to drop everything at a moment's notice going forward. I fear that should I receive a similar call in future, I'll not be in a position to access my laptop. Work-life balance is important, and I'm going to enforce those boundaries. The trouble is, it starts as a one-off here and there, and you do it to be nice with the best of intentions, but give an inch and they'll take a mile if you're not careful. For some of those asking, I'm already looking at other jobs. Although there's definitely issues with the management in my current area, and employees being taken for granted, not just me, the company as a whole does have a good ethos. Hope this provides at least a little amusement, and is only giving back a tiny amount of what you've all given me. I'm not planning on any more updates, so this it from me. Thank you all, and don't let the bastards grind you down. The next story is titled, Want a Child Ticket? Sorry man, can't let you in. So, here in the UK, a 15 rated film means that you have to be 15 to see the film, no exceptions. Back a few years ago, we had two ticket types at my cinema. Adult and child. It's since changed to incorporate a teen ticket. Child was under 15, and adult was anything 15 and above. This guy comes in with his mates, back of the queue to get in, but can be heard throughout the foyer being all loud and obnoxious, and the generalization I've found in my experience in the cinema is that if they're teens on their own and they're loud and obnoxious in the foyer, there's a high chance they'll be the same during the film and generally be a nightmare in the screen. I start to notice some other people in the queue looking over at him and rolling their eyes. I get the pleasure of serving this guy. Comes up to me, still shouting over at his mates who are getting served by some of my colleagues, and asks for a ticket to see this 15 rated film, can't remember which. One of these low-budget crappy horrors that have come out in their many sequels recently. Insidious, or Sinister, or Annabelle or whatever. He looks about 16/17, but since he said a ticket, work script autopilot takes over as I ask how old he is so that I can sell him the correct ticket type. Him being the person he is, and probably since he's gotten away with it before to get the cheaper ticket price, said he was 14. The moment he said that, a massive grin washes over my face. Sorry mate. This film's a 15. Holding back my glee at not having to deal with his bullcrap for the next 2 hours. I can't let you in. No amount of begging and pleading would make me budge, so he asks to speak to the manager. Manager comes down, sides with me and he's on his way, day ruined. The next story is titled, 1 minute late is late? Okay. So I had some attendance issues at an old job. Not really, the policy was that within 5 minutes of the shift is still considered on time. Well, I had a manager who wanted to abruptly change corporate policy and define clearly that late equals late. So background, it's retail and I'm in my senior year of college. I'm not making a career out of this job, and I'm 5 years older than all of my co-workers. My immediate manager felt threatened by me, as I had previously declined leadership positions to finish school. He always had something he needed to fix about me, even though I had 7 straight months of rockstar performance, exceeding metrics by plus 10% above goal, and I frequently aided in training new employees. Once again, this was a college filler, not a career move for me. I'm not a bad employee. However, I was a busy employee. My last semester working there I had 5 classes, and would be usually within a minute or two to my shift. So manager one day specifies I'm late, it's 3:01 and my shift starts at 3 o'clock, to which I said marginally. He, in front of other co-workers, decides he's gonna put his foot down. No, combustible geotic 1 minute late is late. So I stopped my task and calmly asked him, then what does it mean when I'm staying 45 minutes after my shift to help when we're short-staffed? And he said, we don't even want to have this conversation right now, and left. To be fair, he's not wrong, he handled the situation wrong. If he wanted me to change something we could have talked in private, he wanted to swing dicks in front of the new hires. So I complied. I made it a point to clock in and out exactly when my shift starts and ends. It's glorious. A couple weeks later he tells me I need to do something 2 minutes before my shift ends. So I start the task, and 2 minutes later I said, "Sorry manager, my shift is over," clocked out and left. My mindset is go ahead, try to fire the best looking employee on paper for working exactly his shift and not a second longer. He didn't want to swing dicks after that. The next story is titled, "Police Tell Us to Stop Running Red Lights." Fine, we'll just extend how long it stays green. I live in a subdivision connected to a major road. The road out of the subdivision has a traffic light. In the morning, nearly everybody needs to turn left for work. Even if you want to turn right, you are simply stuck because there isn't enough room for more than one car. To compound the problem, the traffic light is green for no more than 5 seconds. We may get 4 to 5 cars out legally, then you have to wait another 3 to 4 minutes before the light switches. As you can imagine, this causes people to run the light, swerve around somebody they thought should have gone, etc. It's a grab back of idiots in cars, myself included. If you roll up to the light and see that you are 15 cars back, you know you've just added 10 minutes to your commute simply trying to get out of your subdivision. Well, because of all of our reckless driving behavior, the police communicated via our HOA that we needed to knock it off. They had a police car parked near our area every morning for a week to keep us on our best behavior. Our board tried to work with the city to lengthen the light, but to no avail. That's when a hero emerged. We get a random email to the HOA distribution list from an anonymous person. They laid out our plan for malicious compliance. There is a pedestrian crosswalk light at the before-mentioned intersection that basically goes unused. In my 10 years living there, I've never seen it used. There just simply isn't any pedestrian traffic. The subdivision hero devised a plan on how to use this crosswalk to our advantage. Basically, one person in their car simply needs to walk over and hit the push button to cross, and run back to their car. When the light switches, we now get 30-ish seconds to alleviate our traffic jam. Everybody is joining in, and it's hilarious. My oldest daughter got to do it the other day, and other cars in the line were rolling down their windows and cheering her on. It's possibly the best neighborhood bonding experience possible. I'm sure our longer lights are screwing up something further down the line, but none of us really care. We're now on our best behavior since we have about 5 times longer to get through the light. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comment.